So I am with Nat Sani and doing a little bit of a highlight. And I want to ask Nat a little bit about her Ascend Now journey. So to walk us through, when did you start with Ascend Now?
So I started when I was 16. I think we found you through this guy named Pat Albert or something. And I was originally struggling with economics in particular because that was something that was like new to me. That was the start of my journey. And then since then I completed my A levels and now completed my undergrad and then now my post about to start my postgrad.
And your undergrad was in what degree?
Law with business. So I did it at the University of Exeter, but the Cornwall campus, because I didn't want to do straight law because I felt like that would be a bit boring, and I was wanting to do something that was more that I would be more passionate about.
And your postgrad is where?
At LSE. So I'll be studying financial history for that.
Okay, great. And you've always struck me, Nat, and we are just talking about this a little bit, as like wise beyond your years a little bit. And I just wonder, like, where did you acquire all these skills, like self-awareness, confidence, discipline?
Yeah. I think I acquired it majority from my gap year. So I did a gap year as soon as I finished my A levels, and then went into uni. And through that, I really understood what the real world was. I went to private school when I was younger, so I was very much like, in that bubble, and then went to boarding afterwards. And going into the real world is very different. I learned that people couldn't afford like a carton of milk when they were doing their food shop, or people couldn't afford the bus or something like that. So um, I've always remained humble and like try and realize that, I grew up in a very privileged world and I should not like kind of like how do I say it, like feel disappointed that I came from a privileged world, but also at the same time, be proud of who I am and try to make the most out of it. But also realize how fortunate I am to be in the situation that I am.
If you could say something to like Nat in A level years, what would you say? Like if you could tell her something.
God, you're gonna be in for one hell of a ride.
What is life like? What would you tell her? What like how would you describe life?
Um, Crazy, extremely crazy. I wouldn't say like there's nothing that is normal about my life. I think it's very much like volatile, which is what we don't like. But it's also that something that keeps me on my toes, just always trying to like respond to situations and stuff like that.
One of the things I remarked when I was working with you is that you have a very good relationship with failure. When you
Yeah.
fail, you almost like it in a positive way, like you embrace it. Define, like, how would you define your relationship with failure?
I think it's a very good relationship. Obviously, failure is something that we don't like recently as well. Like I did there's this module in law called trust and equity, which is like the most disgusting law module on the entire planet. Like no one likes it except my professor who like practices it for his profession. But I failed that assignment. I got third, which was like my first ever third in uni, and it was in my final year, which is worth two-thirds of my entire degree. And it was a 30 cred module, which had heavy weighting. And I decided, like, oh yeah, like because I failed something, I shouldn't look at it as like, oh, my life is over and stuff like that. I went on gradecalculator.net and I started calculating all the probabilities and stuff like that. But also I reached out to my professors and like, look, I need help. Like this is not how like I usually perform. And like they know it, I know it. So really at that point, like I started doubling down on my studies. Like I was hitting the library every single day. And with failure, you shouldn't look at it as like life is over or anything like that. It's more of a second opportunity for you to give it your best shot. Like things happen for a reason that are out of our control, but it's what we do to respond to it that determines us as a person.
Wise. And how would you describe the teaching at Ascend compared to,
Yeah.
any other teaching or
I think
tutors?
like with
Just
Ascend
the
now in
approach.
particular, okay, because I've been like tutored like different like places as well. Because like for example, like let's be real, I'm Asian. Kumon was like the situation when I was younger. Um, but it's very much like personal, which is what I like. It's not something that it's like, oh, here I am, we're gonna tutor you and try to make you the best. Like I think it's personal but also very effective in a sense that like you always check like if I'm okay and stuff like that. You always question like how am I and everything. But also you pick up the ways that I learn. Because like I'm someone who's not like I know how I learn. It's not like I'm dyslexic. So like I know like I have to be taught like differently than like most kids. But also as well, like you guys also keep things kind of like, for example, with A levels, from what I remember, like very similar to like past papers as well, questions. That was like really effective because you can you can ask questions, but if they're not similar to like the exam method, then you're not like thinking about how the examiner would mark. And that's something that I found that was very different because most people are like, oh, give you a piece of paper and like memorize that. But that's not really what we want. We want it to be skills that you can gain for life in the sense that like the soft skills, for example, like you taught me about that from a very early age. So yeah.
And I feel that you've acquired soft skills in such a quick way. When I was your age, you're what, 19, 20?
I'm 21 now.
21. When I was 21, I didn't have nearly as much self-confidence, self-awareness, insight as you did. And I wonder, like, do you feel most of that acquisition of those skills, was that more a thing in high school? Was that more a thing in college, a combination? How did you acquire these skills?
I think probably through maybe college more, relating to different people and stuff like that, trying to find something like a common interest is how I say. I mean it helps for me because like I'm an extrovert, but with regards to soft skills, I think just be open and put yourself out there. um yeah, like I think I learned the most of it probably during gap year because that was like when I was really meeting like different people of like different parts of the world, not like in an international privileged private school background, but like people who went to state schools, people who were even like 25 at that point and were studying in uni as well, because that's really where the game changer is. And trying to, I guess, like make friends, like I guess soft skills are kind of in relation to that.
Mm.
Just trying to be open, being nice and everything like that. So yeah.
And what do you want to, what do you think is your ideal gig? I know you've gotten so many different offers, but what's your ideal gig?
Um, ooh. So hopefully like I got asked this last night as well. Like when I graduate my postgrad, I'm hoping to stick within finance, whether that's in-house or in a bank. I don't really mind. As long as I don't get deported, that's like the greatest thing. Um, so anyone out there, please sponsor me. But hopefully stick within the finance sector for like maybe the next decade. If I want to stay in it longer, then yeah, great. But also I kind of want to like start maybe like my own skincare kind of thing. I'm not
Mm.
sure yet, but like I struggled with acne like when I was like a lot younger. So maybe like do that as like a side gig and then hopefully have my own company of skincare line. So yeah.
I would invest in you. I'm just throwing this out there. If you do start something, you reach out to me because I would invest. I think skincare is really interesting, because even beauty, because I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel that there's so many products out there and there's a lot of misinformation, and there's very little data on what's effective and what's not effective, and
Agreed.
you can't see. And also like makeup and stuff, applying it on different faces is completely different, you know?
Agreed.
So the knowledge, like I feel the knowledge piece is missing in beauty. Like I feel there's a lot of options, but I don't know if you watch those, like how I do my skincare or how I do my
Oh,
makeup
yeah.
videos. I love those videos. I watch them at lunch, even though I don't wear makeup that much anymore. But I just think it's really that knowledge piece. There's a huge gap in the
Mhm.
education piece, no?
Yeah, I agree. Because like for example, like people will spend like I don't know, like millions on like freaking skincare. They'll spend like that La Mer
Yeah,
cream.
yeah.
And I'm like, but I don't need that thing because like I know like what works well for my skin after learning through so much. Um But then some people, they'll be like, oh yeah, coming back home with like a big bag of skincare. But then they realize none of the products work because they didn't do enough research. So that's
Hmm.
where like the problem is, I think, in my opinion, with the skincare line. So yeah.
Yeah. Final question, 3 words to describe Ascend.
Personal, effective, proactive.
Okay. I think we got it. Thank you, Nat.